and welcome to episode 3 of the Football Fanatic podcast. I'm your host, Declan O'Connor. With me this week are Daniel Coulter, Howard Costello, and Mark McCormack. And lads, how's your weekend?
All
Good
good,
deck.
Deck.
Yeah, good to have football
Doing
back.
good. Absolutely.
Absolutely, dead right. Listen, thank you very much for everyone who has tuned in so far for the first 2 episodes. We've had a really good response both on Instagram and on YouTube. Some really good feedback as well, so please keep that coming. If you do want to get in contact with the podcast, our email address is footballfanaticpodcast@gmail.com. Our YouTube page, Football Fanatic Pod. You can subscribe to us for free. Would really appreciate as many people doing that as we can. Also on Instagram at Football Fanatic Podcast. So we will get straight into it today, man. We will have our weekend review. And I would like to start with Liverpool versus Bournemouth. Daniel, I will get your feedback on Liverpool going one down, first of all, and then a contentious penalty, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I reckon, yeah.
How I don't know. I just thought I just thought it was kind of
Soft.
yes, there was
Soft.
contact, but it was soft.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt it was soft. What did you think?
No, I'd say he probably bought it, but that's kind of the way it is now, isn't it? That's kind of go down the box. He's like left a leg. Yeah, it probably was. And I never really thought about it too much, but actually, yeah, probably was soft enough. But I still think once you make contact in the box like that, you're looking for trouble, aren't you?
Is it a
Um,
free kick outside of the box?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I
I don't
think
think it
I
was.
think who was the defender? I think the defender. I don't know. He knew exactly where he was because he had just come into the corner of the box, like so.
Yeah.
There could have been a bit of naivety there from his part, sticking out the leg. But again, yeah, it was a slight touch, but
No, I take a
Yeah.
point. Yeah, yeah. Like I could, it's one of them, but I do feel once you put the leg out now, in the box like that. It was foolish
Um,
by the defender. And just on him as well, Sabazalai, he was unbelievable. I was really
mm,
impressed, delighted with his debut. Still a lot of cracks. I think that like Bournemouth were decent enough. I think Newcastle will, potentially could show a lot more of the defensive and midfield vulnerabilities next weekend. But I thought once we got playing after about 25 minutes, we played quite well. I think the last few minutes we were quite sloppy. I think we thought we had the game won. Obviously, we're down to 10 men. Don't think it was a red card. We feel
yeah,
it.
just on
Yeah.
that. Two things actually. First of all, just I'll get to the red card in a second, but first of all, the start of the game was
Mm.
very sloppy,
Oh,
mm.
very sloppy. Yeah, yeah.
very
And
sloppy.
you could see it's like I think it's the same as against Chelsea at times. It looked as if the lads had never played together before. That kind of back unit. Again, the balance is wrong. Sure, it's definitely wrong. You can see that.
Mm.
There's gaps galore. We're still easy enough to play against, as I said, against a better side, Newcastle next week. Now it'll be whether or not we obviously have the new Japanese guy who come on. I think he's only
Endo.
been there for 2 days. He's going to be playing probably the sixth position. McAllister, if whether or not the appeal will be successful, I think it might be. I know they don't usually get overturned too often, but I think that one might get turned over. So I think the midfield though is still a contentious issue for me anyway, and I think defensively as well. Like it's a bit of a mess at times. That second half we were slightly better for most of the second half. The last few was a bit sloppy, but um, yeah, I still think we're easy playing. We're going to give up so many chances, and it's going to
Yeah.
be up to the main man in goals. Allison even on Saturday made a few really good
Allison
saves.
was poor. Yeah, Allison was.
Yeah, he was poor in the first half. He had a few rations, but in the second half he made two or three brilliant saves. That
Yeah.
like that when Bournemouth came at us. So, yeah, all in all, I think 4 points from the opening two games. If you look at it that way, it's not a bad return. Going away to Stamford Bridge first game of the season, and then
Yeah,
obviously at home to Bournemouth.
yeah, enough.
So, but
I
the
agree. I agree with that.
real test for me is Sunday, and I am concerned to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, what do you make of Liverpool's first 2 games? Against Chelsea and against Bournemouth. Did anything stand out for you?
Well, I understand what Dan's saying, that Newcastle will be a bigger threat. But Liverpool will be playing better in the next game. It's a brand new midfield. It'll take time for them to get better. It'll take time for them to gel. The back doesn't seem as strong as it was. I don't know if Van Dijk was a 10 out of 10. Is he a 8.5 out of 10 now? I don't know if it's fair to say that, but
I think it's fair. Yeah.
I don't think there's too much problems with Liverpool. Like you have 4 points from 2 games. You didn't play good in either game, really. There was times where you played kind of okay. You're going to score goals in every game. And you'll probably be. I will say you'll be better in every game going forward. You know, the midfield will have to gel. They're a brand new midfield. The whole thing was uprooted, and you still have 4 points. Chelsea spent $1 billion almost, and they have 2 points, 1 point in 2 games.
Yeah.
That's not to slag off Chelsea. It's the truth. So like you're 3 points better off than them in 2 games, and you have a midfield that has never played together. So,
and it looks like they're gonna add one more. But it looks like they talk is they might get
Who?
one more for the
Who are they looking at?
They're actually looking at Man United. I think are linked to the same that your man, what they call him, the
Amrabat,
yeah. And seen in there reporting that Liverpool were linked with Gravenberg a good bit during the summer. There was links there this evening that Man United are looking at him as well. So I think both clubs are we moving on to Man United as well. Seem to be in the market for a midfielder. So I imagine we'll probably sign one more. But look, like as Mark said there, like it is a brand new. And also just Diaz was electric on Saturday. Like he's such a good player.
Great goal.
Yeah.
His goal was fantastic. Brilliant touch, brilliant composure. And just one thing as well, just before we move on to the next game. So far, first 2 games, Jota has got 2 starts ahead of Nunez. And Jota's goal at the weekend was a pure number 9 goal. It was just a pure kind of poacher's goal. Is Nunez going to get a look in, or do you think Klopp is looking at Diaz, Jota, and Salah as his front 3 of choice?
I think so, yeah. He would have been my front 3 of choice. I know Nunez scored a few goals in pre-season, but I feel definitely in the first game of the season away at Chelsea, there's no way Nunez is going to start that game for a number of reasons. One, work rate though, and even when Nunez came on against Chelsea, you can see he had that one shot, but he's still kind of just trying to find himself, and he can't, especially at the start of the season. Maybe Europa League will kick in, he'll start getting goals. Like he might look. He said when he gets into the team, he will get chances, and when he gets in, he's going to have to take them. But for me, John at the end of last season was quality. He done well in pre-season that as well, and like there's an awful lot about Jota. Probably the one in the open 2 games that I really felt now was at sea was Capco. And I know that's not his position. I don't think where he's playing. I thought again on Saturday he was sloppy. He didn't offer a whole lot. Don't think that's his best position. I don't think he'll play there actually when we have kind of our midfield started out. Thiago's due to come back in now. Petch is back as well. He was on the bench. So there is options there. And you've Curtis Jones obviously as well. So
but Nunez will find his feet, he will.
He's
a young player and he is a bit raw, I granted that. And I understand why Klopp didn't play him, by the way, because you have a brand new midfield. You want a solid front 3 if you can. So leave him out because he's a bit rawer than the rest of them, I feel. But I think in the next 2 or 3 years he'll be banging in 20 goals a season. I really rate him. I think he's a fantastic player.
Yeah, I'd agree. Okay. I agree with that. Yeah, I think like just on Nunez there, like he's the kind of player I think you need to keep playing him. He's gonna have a howler or 2 at the start, but like his numbers in Portugal, like he will hit them. I think with Liverpool. I just think he needs to be patient with him because he can kind of get on Liverpool fans' nerves. I think with some of his work ethic and all that.
Seems a fiery character, doesn't he?
Yeah, the big issue really is that if you remember last season, he played wide left. When he was playing all them goals in Benfica, it was through the middle. Or Klopp was playing him on the left. No, I'd like you, if you played 15, 20 games maybe through the middle, like that's when you really have a kind of I suppose you can kind of rate him then. But until then, I don't think, he was in and out, got injured, and he was playing a lot on the left side. So he got through the middle, but I just think that he can't drop Jota at the moment anyway. He's playing really well.
Okay, very good. Another one of the standout results happened yesterday. Happened at West Ham versus Chelsea. I was personally delighted to see this. Not because I don't dislike. I know, Howard, you have a particular dislike for Chelsea. You mentioned last week. That's kind of growing for me as well. The more that they basically, I know coming from a City fan, you laugh, but the more that they spend money, I'm kind of growing to dislike them. But in the West Ham match yesterday, I thought they just showed fight. They went down to 10 men. They were 2-1. I mean, I just thought that West Ham showed such fight, and David Moyes doesn't get the praise that he deserves. He has won the Europa Conference League last season with them. The season before, he kept them in the Premier League. The season before that, I may be wrong, but he brought them to a 7th place finish. So, I mean, and obviously there's a new director of football, I think, and there's a bit of kind of aggro between the 2 of them. But, I mean, we also have a friend here as well that is a big West Ham fan, and he he's kind of 50-50 on what Moyes is like. Should he stay? Should he go? I think he's a very good manager. He's just a hard-working, stubborn. He is a headstrong, stubborn man, obviously. But Howard, I'll go to you first. Kind of, what did you make of the match yesterday? David Moyes, does he deserve more respect than he's getting?
Yeah, well, I think when Dave Moyes thing, I predicted last week that he could be the first to get the sack, but that was just if West Ham kept, had a bad start to the season. No, look, I think Dave Moyes is a good, solid manager. I don't know if he has. I think he might be limited enough. I think he will do very well with a team that will be, let's say, a mid-table team, and he'll keep them as a mid-table team. I know he had a rough time at United, but I don't know if does he have the tactical nuance to bring West Ham to the next level. I know Unai Emery is a great manager, but just as a comparison, like he managed Arsenal for a while, he is a brilliant manager, Unai Emery, when he needs to grind out a result, be defensive in his play, but also have he has attacking moments. But you brought him into the Arsenal. Now, maybe if they gave him a few more years, he would have been would have developed into a brilliant manager for them. I just felt he was limited in a certain way, and he does like Moyes does. He does great work with just above average players. But when it comes to like dominating a game possession wise, I'm not sure if Moyes has that in his
what's
locker.
the level though, Howard? Like, you're saying there, what's the next level? Like, what's West Ham's level? It
Exactly.
European trophy.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. That's that. Yeah. What he's perfect for what they are right now. But I suppose if you want to be a team that's maybe challenging for the Europa League and maybe getting into the Champions League or whatever, I'm not sure if he's going to be that guy. That's what I think. If you want to be a West Ham fan and be happy with 7 to 8 in the Conference League trophy every few seasons. And that's possibly, there's no, but you always want to grow as a team, like, you want to.
Yeah,
Mark, what do you? Sorry,
Mark.
No,
go on,
what do you think, Mark, of Moyes? Does he deserve more credit than he's getting?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I'm a fan of Moyes. I was glad when he came to United. I think we done him dirty. It was an aging team, and we only bought him Marouane Fellaini. So
did Fergie set him up for disaster?
There was nobody else. Pep wasn't available. Jose Mourinho wasn't available. Van Gaal wasn't available. He was the fourth choice, and he said that himself. That's what Fergie said to him when he called to the house. So I like him, but I'm with Howard actually. It's depends on how ambitious are you as a club. So if you have the team that you have, he's the best manager for that team. So like you couldn't put in Pep in charge of West Ham because they're not going to play the way he wants to play because they're not able to. They're not good enough. I don't think if Moyes took over West Ham, they'd be ticky-tacky after a year, It'd be fucking Route 1 football, I'm sure. But it just depends on what your ambitions are. If they plan on spending some money and bringing in some young players and, I don't know, maybe taking a leaf out of Brighton's book, for example, well, then he wouldn't be the man. But for what he's done, the European Cup, and I know, look, they're nearly relegated, but I think he's doing well. And I think that if they want to stay up and they want to be safe, just keep him. He's doing okay. They might get a run in Europe again. But if they want to start changing the way that they're playing, bringing in young players, this philosophy that we hear so much about, he probably wouldn't be the man. But for what he's done, I think he's very underrated, 100%. And I do think United done him dirty, 100% as well.
Okay, now Dan, seeing Chelsea lose and seeing that Chelsea have robbed two players from under Liverpool's noses in the last week, what did you make of it? 1 and 2, were you delighted to see Caicedo giving away a penalty?
The £115 million dud. I actually thought that Chelsea were very impressive for the first half. I did, and I wouldn't be that worried if I was a Chelsea fan. I'd be happy enough. I think they're for what Patrick's inherited, which is a side that I don't think any of them really know each other. Not many of them anyway. I think that first half they're very good, and it was just a mistake at the back by a new player and Antonio with an unbelievable finish, and it just changed the whole pattern of the game. And I thought West Ham then, especially when they went to 10 men, it was pure Moyes masterclass. I think in that second half. So I wouldn't have worried about Chelsea. Yes, I look, he made a mistake. He hasn't played any ball at all. I still, I know the memes and everything were out on social media, and it was like, he's a good player. We would have taken him. Of course, we thought we had him, and I wouldn't be that worried if I was Chelsea. Though I know it's a poor result, obviously. But like a lot of teams can go to West Ham and lose, especially in them big games. It can be a tough place to go. So Won't be that worried. I just one other thing though on Moyes now as well. Like the year before, they spent very little money and they got into the Europa League semi-final as well. That was trying to get in when Howard was talking about where do they go and as well. Just trying to get that in there as well. Like they got to the Europa League semi-final. Fair enough, spent a lot of money. They were one of the highest spenders last year, and there was for a lot of the season. They looked like they were going to go down or might go down. So, but look, the European trophy in the bank. Yeah, same as Mark there. Like this kind of culture of playing a certain way now and bringing in young players and that kind of thing might be the way that West Ham are going to go forward with the change up near the top. And that as well. But he's only Kante hasn't done a good job. And for West Ham this season, agree. You know what I mean? Like they're comfortably probably going to be, I would say, top half, maybe fighting for European place, and they could have a run again in Europe. You wouldn't know.
Just on Chelsea there. Chelsea
sorry,
are.
Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, Dick, go on.
No, go ahead.
Chelsea are, it looks like they have a bad start, but they did play good in the first half. I agree with that as well. And when the fixtures come out, I looked at like their first 6 or 7 games, and that's the time you want to be playing Chelsea. Like you don't want it to be February and Podge is there a couple of months and they're absolutely humming as a team. It's going to be big problems for everybody. Like the whole joke about 150 million for a dud, and look, I agree, he's a great player. Enzo's a great player. Lavia, Podge will get them lads humming and they'll be scoring goals for fun and they'll be defending really, really well, and they're going to be a nightmare for anybody once he's there a while. So if you are going to get them, now is the time. That's not taking anything away from West Ham, of course, but
I just on that, like I know what you're saying, but I don't know where the attacking creativity comes from in the Chelsea team. If you have if you have Lavia, Casado, and Enzo in there, I don't know. Do you have that? Do you have your Fernandez and Odegaard for Chelsea? Like they're playing with a Sterling off.
Nkunku will do that.
Yeah,
when he comes back.
But I know. Yeah, I know. I say he's more. Well, I would picture him more of a kind of Jesus kind of false nine, kind of playing off the striker. But I don't know. Do they have that kind of lad who's going to make a killer pass in the attacking? I thought they were lacking that anyway. And they dominated the ball the first half. I just thought they were lacking that little bit of ball through the eye of a needle kind of stuff that they don't. I just don't see that personnel in their team at the moment. Not that they're not going to buy him anyway before the transfer window's out, but
they'll probably spend another 200 before the
window Mason Mount back of us if they want.
No comment on Mason Mount today, gentlemen. Right, we'll move on to Manchester City versus Newcastle. I suppose before the game, I saw obviously De Bruyne, when we heard last week, he's out for a few months. John Stones is out. He's not going to be back for 2 to 3 weeks. Bernardo Silva is out. He's sick. Yeah, I was a little bit worried. Like the starting 11 was strong, but when I was looking at the bench, it was not the bench you were used to kind of seeing at City. So I was a little bit worried before the match. Newcastle playing them any time in the season, anyways, it has turned into now, the team they are now has turned into a tough fixture. But I just thought that Phil Foden filled in that gap that De Bruyne, would have been playing in that. I don't know, is De Bruyne technically is he a number 10 anymore, or is he kind of dropped back a little bit? But regardless, Phil Foden was a creator on Saturday night. He was fantastic. He was getting the ball on the turn. He was running at the fences. He was bringing others into play. He was finding Haaland. Now, Haaland didn't have he didn't have an awful game, but he didn't have a great game either. Now, but on another day, he would have taken one of those chances. But I suppose, Dan, I know you're a huge fan of Foden. Over the next few months with De Bruyne out, is Foden the answer, do you think, for Guardiola and City?
Yeah, I think, well, like he can't drop him after his performance at the weekend. It was brilliant. Is he the answer? Like he still, like, I don't know, like Alvarez was unbelievable as well on Saturday. And just every time I watch him play, I think he's exceptional as well. When you look at City's forward players now, they're a lot more fluidity, is there? A lot more kind of moving and interchanging when like Alvarez and Foden are playing. So be interesting to see, like, will Haaland get as many? I know Foden kind of found him a couple of times, didn't he?
Yeah.
He probably is the answer now, isn't he, Jack? Like, I don't know, unless I know that you're in for a winger now, another guy from France.
Jeremy Doku.
You got him.
You got him, yeah. 55 million.
Yeah. So
I haven't seen a lot of him. Only highlights and that. He looks a very good player.
Foden is unreal, though,
Foden is just a joy to watch. There's just certain players just love watching. De Bruyne being one, David Silva was one, Foden is another. He just gets, it's when he gets the ball on the half turn and he just goes, and it's like he's gliding. as opposed to just running with the ball. And he's only 23, and I've seen the kind of the trophy collection that he has already. Like, it's ridiculous.
You probably want to go and see him now do that for, like, say, 10-game stint. Like,
needs a run.
There, you give him a run again and see what his level is like for the next
needs a run in the team 100%, and he has his chance now. He proved it the other night that he can play in that more central position. Just a word as well on Kovacic. I thought him playing alongside Rodri the other night, I thought he was excellent. So if that's going to be the kind of way forward with Rodri and Kovacic and Foden in front of them, we'll see when Bernardo comes back in what will happen there. But I was worried when De Bruyne got injured. Still not happy, but if Foden kind of plays in the centre and he plays that well, I mean, I'm delighted with that. Howard, any word on Newcastle? What do you think?
Well, watching the game, I just didn't think Newcastle ever looked like they didn't even have a stint where they looked like they were going to create any chances. I thought sometime, like, they went with, I think, mentality. I think they knew, I know it's mad to say this about Newcastle, who were usually, very physical. I just thought they kind of knew they were beaten before the game even began. I never believed in them putting a passage to play together where, oh my God, they look threatening. I think they went out with a idea of just roughing City up a bit. I think that was part of the plan. I remember was it Gordon put in a few tackles on Ruben Diaz, and I think that's kind of their go-to, Newcastle, when they're playing away from home and they don't they're basically trying to get a draw or hold out. They just want to slow everything down. They want to just get physical and take this thing out of it. But the problem is that when you're trying to actually get a goal back, then trying to get that momentum into your game is very difficult, if you know what I mean. So, look, I went to watch the game. I was hopeful, but I kind of what I predicted last week with just City suffocating them. That was the case. Yeah. That was just the thing.
On that, your hero Tonali didn't have the best of games.
No, he didn't. No, he
his jawline.
Yeah, you need to stick to the red carpet, I think.
Yeah. All right. No. Move on, Mark. We'll come to you on Saturday evening. Spurs versus Man United. So I suppose, given 2 games in, Wolves 1-0, Spurs 2-0 defeat. I suppose Wolves. Is it fair to say you were fortunate to come away with 3 points in the first game?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
We were fucking cat in both games. An absolute holy disgrace. The back four and the keeper are okay. In the game against Spurs, we had 22 shots on target and no goals. So it doesn't matter if you're playing an under-7s team. If you have 22 shots on target and you don't score, you're not going to win. That's an issue. So we went out and spent 75 million on a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, and he's injured. I think that's an awful lot of pressure on him when he does come back, because we need him essentially to hit the ground straight away and start scoring. He can't have a bedding in time. He can't take his time. He can't get injured. He has to go in and start popping in goals every single game, or we're in big trouble, because nobody else seems to be scoring. Now, Rashford will score when he's playing off the left. We've seen that for the last couple of seasons, particularly last season. But there's a problem in midfield as well. So I'm watching football all my life. I love the game. I try to be as honest as I can. I couldn't believe it when we went for Mason Mount. Now, do I like him as a player? Yes. I'm glad he's at the club, 100%. But, like, that's like buying a chimney for a house when you have no foundation in. Like, you need someone else in midfield. Like, there was a point last season where we were about 5 points off the lead or 4 points off the lead. That's including losing the first 2 games. We looked very hard to play against, and we were scoring goals. Not that many, 1 or 2, but people weren't scoring against us. Obviously, De Gea went on to win the Golden Glove. And I said, you know what? We're a little closer here than I think we are. Casemiro got a red card, and then he got another red card. And that was a 3-game and a 4-game ban. And then we had McFred in midfield, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer start coming back. So we're better when Casemiro's in there, but we kind of need someone in beside him. So if you have Bruno and Mount in beside him, both of them are attacking. And I watched the game like a hawk. The amount of times that the 2 Spurs midfielders, Sarr and Basuma, were 2-on-1 running with the ball towards Casemiro. I mean, like, Jesus Christ can't defend against 2 lads. It just can't happen. It doesn't matter how good he is. He's too old. Nonsense. Toni Kroos is 35. Modric is 37. They're fantastic players. He's only 31. He should be well able to run, well able to do it. But he's been asked of too much, and he's looked to be exposed loads of times. But I don't blame him for that. I think someone needs to be in there with him. So I was surprised when we got Mount. I thought we should have bought, like Dan mentioned, both clubs are in for Amrabat. So he'd be an example. If the Qatari lads took over, I would have loved Jude Bellingham, because I think he's going to be the best midfielder in the world. Like England have some team, Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden. Like them lads admit they're going to score goals for fun at the next tournament. But United, very bad start. I've seen the pre-seasons games. That was bad as well. So you might say to yourself, whose fault is it? And you say, like, well, it's the manager got in Mason Mount. So am I turning on Ten Hag on season 2? Of course not. But I just don't see what he was thinking. Like, if you want to have, like, last season, there was loads of times where we got injuries and we couldn't play the way we wanted to play. And obviously we had no striker and we still won a cup and we finished third. I understand that. He done really, really well. But we've been bad in pre-season. We've been worse in the first 2 games. There's no play. There's no pattern. It's very slow. It's very ponderous. It's blood-boilingly frustrating to watch.
Yeah, but Mark, just on the Mason Mount thing, like, do you not think, like, last year they lined up with Eriksen, Casemiro, and Fernandez a lot of times, and they worked well. Is Mount not a replacement for Eriksen? Are they not kind of similar players in their, let's say, attacking minded? Or
I was hoping that was the case.
Yeah.
Ten Hag said that he was on MUTV and he said that Eriksen played on a deeper role last season, but for the first couple of games he didn't do a good job. But that's my fault, he said, because he needs time to bed in and do it, and he's never played that role before. The same as for Mason Mount. Eventually he'd be able to play in a deeper role. And if that is the case, then why are we looking for another CDM?
Yeah,
like, he's saying one thing with this side of his mouth, and he's saying something else on the other side of his mouth. Like, he said that we weren't going to get rid of De Gea, that he wanted him at the club, and then he got rid of him. He said that Maguire is very important to him. He accepted 30 million off West Ham, and he stripped him of the armband. So I know managers have to lie. Look, I understand, I get it, but it's been a very, very worrying 2 games. We should have scored. If Haaland was playing for Manchester United, for example, we would have scored 5 or 6 against Spurs, and we were still bad. So I think if he can shore it up in midfield, get the striker on, put Rashi out on the left, I think we'll do okay. But we're nowhere near winning the league. Like, Jesus, we're a mile away.
Okay, cheers for that. As well, Haaland chose blue. Let's always remember that. Before we actually move on down to our next topic, which is Manchester United, and they're supposed to take over Ten Hag's first year in goings, transfers in and out. Dan, on Spurs, what have you made of them in their first 2 games? I know Kieran was talking last week about Ange Ball. Yeah. I didn't believe it, but supposedly it's a thing. It's developing after a weekend into something. So, I mean, I was impressed. What did you think of Spurs?
Yeah, well, I think the first game away at Brentford, they created a lot of chances, and they were open at the back. I would kind of be going to lean with Mark there. I thought United were good for the opening 15, 20 minutes. They looked to cause the threat, and then after that, especially when they went 1 down, they nearly folded. Like, there was no sort of structure to their play at all. So how good are Spurs, or did United make them look better than they are? It's hard to know. But Zuma in the middle against United, like, forget, he didn't really play at all last year. Like, Conte didn't fancy him at all. He didn't get a game. I know he had an injury as well, but he didn't get in. Like, he looked amazing. And the young lad Sarr, who was on the bench a lot last season, he kind of got in and out, but he wasn't a regular either. Like, they looked like they had legs in the middle, power in the middle of the field. Would still be wondering who's going to get the goals now that Kane is out, on a week-to-week basis. Yeah. Son just last season didn't look at it. He was okay at times, I thought at the weekend, but his numbers had dropped, so like he's a lot to kind of, I suppose, take a lot of that pressure now. He's the captain's armband there, and obviously Richarlison just can't seem to get going at all, and he's going to be probably going to be the main man as he's through the middle replacing Kane. That's a big ask for him too. So they probably need a couple of defenders in as well, I think, Spurs. But like, it's a promising start for them. It's early days. Definitely a different style of football than we used to. Like, Spurs were good to watch at the weekend.
They were.
Conte at times they weren't. They were a lot more structured and but they were kind of flying forward. The wing backs as well were bombing forward for Spurs. So, and I think your man Ange came on after the game and talked about how their whole thing is once they lose the ball, it's get in, try and win it back. It's very much a kind of an aggressive style of play. So look and see where they turn off. They've definitely been more impressive over the first two games than I probably anticipate, especially when you lose Kane. Like, geez, that's a big.
I'd agree with that 100%. I thought when Harry was leaving, this could be disastrous, and it still could. It still could. It could still go down very kind of bad. It could go badly for Spurs, but there are signs of optimism there, absolutely. Just as well. Sorry, Howard, go ahead.
I was going to say they could have had a penalty United. I thought that Romero handball looked like a Stonewall handball. So, and Anthony at the post, and there was, just from looking back at the highlights, it looked like it looked fairly 50-50 at times. So I wouldn't read too much into it. But
no, Spurs were much better. We were really, really poor. It was a penalty, but Wolves should have got a penalty in the first game because Onana fouled. That was a penalty for Wolves, 100%. Yeah. So it's one of these things that you hope over the season that it might go for you. But I'm not even sure what's a penalty anymore because that was a penalty 100%. His arm was out, and I've seen him given last year. So unless there's a new rule that I do not know about, I don't know. And Onana coming out and clearing out two Wolves players last year was a penalty all the time as well. Now it's not.
Yeah, I agree. It needs to be clarified what is. Yeah, needs to be clarified what is and what isn't a penalty, because even 2 weeks in, there seems to be, well, it was last week, but it's not this week and stuff like that. So
the red cards as well. That's another thing.
The red cards as well.
A lot of red 100%.
Cards. So just the remaining fixtures over the weekend: Fulham 0, Brentford 3. Fulham look to have lost Mitrovic to another one gone to the circus. What's he call it? Wolves 1, Brighton 4. Brighton have had a brilliant start to the season. Mitoma, Dan, isn't that his name?
Mitoma, yeah.
Did you see his goal at the weekend?
Yeah.
Out of this world. He is a fantastic player. He was excellent last season. He looks to have picked up where he left off. But as well, Brighton have lost, over the last 2 years, Brighton have lost players, but it doesn't seem to affect them. They just seem to, whatever it is, the culture within the club, they just kind of seem to, they've lost Saido. He was huge for them last season, but 2 games in and they're top of the table. 2 games in.
They obviously had Ferguson, but Ferguson's not starting at the moment. They had João Pedro, who started on the first game week, and now they started Welbeck up front. They seem to be able to be unpredictable with their lineups as well. So they're looking good.
Definitely a team to keep an eye on.
I think over the weekend, the best thing that was seen was Foden over the weekend. That was like an absolute celebration of technique. He was absolutely incredible. 10 out of 10. The Newcastle midfield couldn't get near him at all. And if Iniesta and Xavi were in their heyday, they wouldn't have got near him either. He was unplayable. So he has to play in the next game. He's Haaland's number 1 pick, Foden's number 2. I haven't seen a player do that in the Premier League in about 7 years.
I disagree with you there, Mark. When you say number 1 and 2, number 1, we mentioned last week, Rodri. In my opinion, Rodri, Haaland, and then whoever after that. But
it's a good problem to have, Deck.
It's a fantastic.
Disagreeing over who's your top 3 in the team,
100%.
But just the best thing over the weekend, just to say, was Liverpool Football Club when they had that minute's applause for the Everton fan that lost his life when he was building the Everton Stadium. These clubs hate each other, supposedly. Hate's a bad word. It's a rivalry. It's Merseyside. Well, Liverpool have done that a couple of times, I thought that was just a touch of class, and I know there are bitter rivals as well, and we hate each other and all this nonsense, but you have to respect them for that. It's one thing the board saying we're going to have a minute's applause for our rivals, because someone died belonging to them. But to get all the fans involved and to agree and to do the clap, you can't make that up. There's always a touch of class,
No, absolutely. It's definitely one to note.
Sure.
Right, so we'll move on to our next topic. So, Mark, you have a huge interest in this. Manchester United, what happens next? So we just wanted to kind of talk about this because the Manchester United takeover it seems to be up in the air at the moment, and I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it all. So, Dan, I might just kind of start with you, and then I'll move on to Howard and Marks. Just the Man United takeover. What do you think would be best for Man United going forward? To be owned 100% by the Saudi-backed consortium or country, if you want to call it, or the majority owned Richard Radcliffe, isn't it? Which one do you think would be best? Apologies, Jim Radcliffe.
Yeah.
Dan, which one do you think would be better for Man United going forward? Or does it look to be as if are the Glazers going to sell at all?
I don't know. Like again, Mark will know more than me around the takeover. I was surprised because it seemed like it was close, and Man United stock had gone through the roof. It looked like it was. That's usually an indication of something is happening. I think that it'll probably, if the Glazers are going to sell, it probably will be the Saudis though, will it? Like I think that's just the way that it seems to be going. But again, I don't really know. I'm not going to try and ramble on here because I don't really know a whole lot about what stage it's at. I just thought that there was a big bid gone in. It sounded like it was a monstrous bid, and then it kind of was like it was on the table, and then crickets was kind of nothing. And is it a thing of that the Glazers United obviously done well last year? They won a trophy and got it back in the Champions League, so it's going to generate an awful lot of revenue. So I think did remember reading about that some of the Glazers wanted to stay in, some of them wanted to get out. Again, Mark will know more about it, but obviously, Man United fans want the Glazers gone. It just seems like it's gone quiet. Are they going to give it another season, see where Man United end up? Like they're back in the Champions League.
Just on the Glazers, all right. I was reading I read Dunphy every Monday. I know he's for some people, he's not for others. I think he's funny. If he's anything, he's funny. Okay, and he came out with a very, very good phrase today. He called the Glazers penny pinching parasites. So Dan, what's a parasite?
Well, yeah, I think the Glazers probably what they call it, the name for Joel Glazer. He probably fits that bill.
A parasite, a person who exploits others and gives nothing in return.
Yeah, that sounds like that. Well, yeah. Anyway, look, I think if you're a Man United fan, you want the Saudis coming in and taking over your club because
Mark, you're representing here now. What do Manchester United fans want going forward?
First of all, we want the Glazers out. That's people seem to get confused of why United fans don't like the Glazers because, like, on the face of it, they spend money. What more do you want? You're a new manager, you come in, you get 200 million. Why would you complain? It seems like there's 16 clubs in the Premier League that would take them in the morning. They'd love the Glazers to buy them, but the truth of the matter is they bought the club 17 years ago. They got a loan of 500 million. We all know this already. It's 17 years later, you might say, and that loan is paid off. It said, no, it's actually 100 to 200 million more. They're only servicing the loan. And you might think, this is ridiculous. And you'll be right. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can't, and they're paying like 60, 70 every year off that loan, but the interest is going up. So that gives us less money to spend. Like, this isn't the Glazers' money. It's the money that the club generate by revenue because we are one of the biggest clubs in the world. If not in success-wise, but in fandom all around the world. So then you think, well, are the Glazers getting anything out of this? Because unlike us four, we're all football fans. They're not football fans. I don't think Murta and Arnold are football fans either. They're businessmen and really good at it, by the way. But they're not football fans. So what do the Glazers get out of it? 1.4 billion in dividends. That's what they get out of it. So they might sell United. They're trying to sell United. I think one of the stumbling blocks was the 900 million deal with Adidas.
Okay.
So it's 90 million a year for the next 10 years, which means that covers the interest on the loan. So the loan will go up in interest every year, but they don't have to worry about it. It just means more dividends to them,
And what direction would you like to see Man United go in? Qatari, Jim Radcliffe, with the Glazers still having some part ownership?
No.
Would you like it to be completely clean? Yeah, you want them gone? Okay.
Completely clean. I want them gone because they haven't put a penny into the stadium in 17 years. There's galvanised falling off the top of Old Trafford.
I've heard that as well, yeah.
Manchester United are the second biggest club in debt in the Premier League. Who's the biggest? Spurs. What have they got to show for? One of the best stadiums and facilities in the world. We have galvanised falling off.
That's fair enough. Okay.
But that's not good.
No, no, 100%. I fully agree. I'm of the opinion that Dan as well, that the Qatari bid will be the one that is accepted. And in terms of Manchester United, I've heard you speak a number of times about the Glazers and your dislike for them. You want them out. That opinion is shared across the board. I suppose if Qatari was to come in and kind of own Manchester United going forward, Howard, what do you think that could mean for Manchester United? Like, they're talking about revamping the stadium, bringing in players. I mean, if that was to happen, obviously not before this transfer window, but say if it was to happen before next summer's transfer window, what would that mean for Man United?
Look, I think
would players go kind of, or is that pull still there, or
look,
is
I
there like a
think
level?
it would be the straw that broke the camel's back, as I say. I think it would be the final, like the gates opening for all the Middle Eastern money coming in, because at the moment, okay, City are there, and you have Saudi Arabia, you have Newcastle, and the two of them are nowhere near the machines that Man United were and are. So if you were to say, okay, Qatar themselves would come in and own Man United, I think it would be, well, detrimental to as an Arsenal fan, probably detrimental to our title chances maybe going forward in the future. But again, I suppose not getting at that point. I suppose the money that they'd have Man United would be insane, because financial fair play is about your revenue, but United have one of the biggest revenues anyway. But I think, as you can see from the Middle Eastern way of running clubs, they do it pretty efficiently and pretty well. Like, you have City are there, they have new training facilities, they're very astute now in the market. And that's something that Man United haven't been, even though they've been pumping loads of money into it. So I would worry for the rest of the league if the Qataris were to come in and take over United. I think with the whole sports washing business and all that crack, I think people would want Man United fans, a lot of them would want the Jim Ratcliffe ownership. I think that ideology probably stands to them a bit more, especially for the fan types and the passionate kind of fan types. And they've been kind of going against Man City for so long, saying, "Oh, Man City, the oil money, blah blah blah." But now Qatar are on doorstep, and are they going to be like, "Oh well, actually, no, it is all fine," after giving the guff to all the City fans for so long? So I don't know what way it's going to go. What I was amazed with, and why I can understand they hate the Glazers, is they could have done this in spring before transfer window. Like, they've wasted a whole summer transfer window getting this done. The whole finances has been up in the air. I think that's one of the reasons why they've been struggling in the transfer window so far. United, I think they've had a poor transfer window to date. Yeah, look, we'll see what happens, but I think, yeah, the Glazers have to go anyway from all sides.
Okay, cheers for that. I suppose, Mark, you're the best person to answer this. Ten Hag's first season, again, as a United fan, out of 10, what would you give him?
6.
6, really? I would have thought it would have been more, not to be honest.
Well, so you're fans of different clubs, so you see, well, we won a cup, we were beaten in the final, well beaten in the final, and we came third in the league. But like, I've watched every second of every minute that we played, and so I see the way we're playing. And there was a time mid-season that we played really well, we looked good, the structure, it was fine. And towards the end of the season, we died a death. The players looked tired. They didn't seem to be doing what they were doing when we were playing well. And that's down to the manager. So it's okay to come in and get them, the bounce. And obviously we lost the 2 games, but get in and start doing your stuff. And it's not as if he hasn't been given the players. Obviously he wants more players, but he's doing okay. He's doing okay. I like when he talks. I do watch him doing interviews on MUTV, and he goes into real depth about the team and what he wants to do and how he wants to play. Sometimes I see it on the field, and sometimes I don't see it at all. So I still wouldn't swap him for anybody else. I'm happy that he's there, but I'm not going around giving him a bull of bus for coming third in the Premier League. Like, Jose Mourinho came second, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came second.
He does seem to have brought stability to the club that was lacking over the previous years, over the previous decade.
Yeah.
And he does appear to be the kind of one that is going to be given proper time. He has he comes across very well, I think. He comes across Sorry, go ahead.
He has brought structure. He's brought kind of these rules in. Ten Hag would be the type of person that if things are like, unlike Ollie who towed the line, Ten Hag will walk if things are going wrong. You know, like I know already in the background he's pissed off because we speak about United and the Glazers, and they're, you know, like when you speak to Glazers, think of Arnold and Murta as well, Beavis and Butthead. They can't even get players out. Over the last 4 years, we've got 60 million in revenue. Like Chelsea got 3 times that, 2 months. Like they can't sell players. We went in for Anthony last year for 45 million, which I thought was a bit much for him. And then we decided not to go for him. The 2 lads went over to Spain to get Frankie de Jong and came back with no player and a tan. And then we went back in for Anthony for 85 million. Like you wouldn't see it on Monty Python. Like, so
Anthony's getting a lot of stick at the moment,
guys, you know?
Isn't he?
Say again?
Anthony's getting a lot of kind of stuff online. He's getting a lot of stick at the moment about his performance last year. He really needs to up it this year.
Yeah, he was average. Average,
yeah.
Yeah, average. He'd get the ball, come in on your left-hand side, take a shot.
He likes he does the spin Rooney a lot.
Yeah, he's a spin topper, as they call him. That's all he does. He just spins around the place. He goes nowhere.
That's not the manager brought him, and it's not the manager's fault or Anthony's fault what price he was. So it's up to the manager to get the best out of him. And in my opinion, he hasn't done that yet. This is season 2 with Ten Hag and Anthony there, and he needs to improve this season. We also need to see improvement with Mason Mount. We need to see what he's doing. Where is he going to play? We need to see a structure. Need to see them playing with an identity. And we did do that last year, to answer your question, for a lot of games. And I was really happy. But it did peter out towards the end, which was very disappointing.
Last week on the show, we did season predictions. So what would be a positive season for Manchester United? What would be a step up, in your opinion, this season? Second.
Yeah, because we're not going to beat City. City are too good. So if the Qataris took over United and we bought Harry Kane and Mbappe, we still wouldn't win the league.
You were saying, what did you say about City there a second ago? Can you repeat that?
I don't think I said anything.
Maybe I don't know. It was an echo. City were too good. I thought it was just music to my ears from a Man United
City
fan.
Are with Pep. He's there a couple of years. He has them. City are humming. This is what I think Poch will do with Chelsea. So, for example, if United did get Bellingham and did get Mbappe and Harry Kane, we still wouldn't win the league because it's the second year under Ten Hag, and City are an absolute machine. That they're one of the best teams that has ever existed in football. And even though there are rivals, if like you have to tell the truth, lads, we're here to talk about football. They are one of the best teams that has ever existed. So I think if you didn't win the league within 5 years, 4 years, it would be a failure. But I think if he was to finish second this year, that would be fantastic. But if he finishes third and I can see a progression in the play and the players are integrating and doing their thing, I'd be happy as well. But I don't want to finish fifth. It has to be Champions League. That's the remit. Champions League. If you're not getting into the Champions League, you can't be there because you're getting the players that you want. Obviously, you want more players, and the lads are overspending when they're trying to get a player. They're an absolute disaster. Dan was saying that Liverpool is in for Amrabat. We're in for Amrabat long before Liverpool are. We've talked to him. He wants to come to the club, but we can't give him the money. The same thing happened with Darwin Nunez. The same thing happened with Cody Gakpo. Cody Gakpo, I seen a screenshot of a text message that him and Ten Hag text each other, but he's no money to get him, and he went to Liverpool. So I was happy when Casido and all them went to Chelsea. Dose your own medicine there, Daniel.
Dan, would you like to respond?
I actually think that if the Armbat one, if United are in from, and if they get the funds together, he goes there. Because like that, same as Saedo, Chelsea, that was January, they were in for Saedo, and I'd been talking to Armbat for quite a while. So I think like that, if they cop up the money, which again, the 2 games that they played looks like they need them now. So it's like trying to get that one maybe over the line. I think there's a bit of panic in there to get one in. We're obviously still in the market. So, but I think if it came to it, he's definitely going to United. I don't even think it's a, it's that's where he's going.
You just nailed up the problem on the head there, Dan. After United's first 2 games, it looks like we need him. The manager should have known that all along. That's easy. He's his job to know that. He was with us all last season. He was with us in pre-season. You can't play bad in the first 2 games and then say, "Oh no, we have to get somebody." You should have known that all along. It's a very frustrating thing with every manager of United. And I'm starting to think that maybe they do know it, but the lads just can't get business done.
I have an interesting question. Okay, Harry Maguire was stripped of the captaincy. I think a lot of people will agree that was probably a good decision. Last what do you call it? Was it 2-3 weeks ago? Bruno Fernandes was named as the captain. I personally think that Bruno Fernandes was a bad choice for the captain. Mark, what do you think of that?
On the first bit, I think Harry Maguire shouldn't be the captain. I actually feel a little bit sorry for Maguire because
a lot of people do.
Again, he didn't spend 80 million on himself. He would have went for 40 million, 50 million. He was good for the first 18 months. He had that trouble over in Greece where himself and his sister got attacked, and he hasn't been the same since. And he's a scapegoat there. So he should have been stripped of the captaincy. Bruno Fernandes, there's no way on anyone's planet he's a captain of Manchester United. But there's probably who else? Casemiro, Varane.
Well, I would have gone with either of them. Absolutely. I think Bruno Fernandes, like he's a quality player. He is, and he has been for a number of years now.
He's been disastrous for the last 6 months. Absolutely disastrous.
I agree. He has
Every
had
ball
a
is
huge
a Hollywood ball. He's losing the ball left, right, and centre. He can't score. What is he like? Is he playing in midfield? No. Is he playing as an attacking midfielder? And he's going around giving out to everybody about everything.
Yeah, he's not captain material. If I had to choose, I would have given it to Casemiro. Dan, what do you think?
There's no standard. You give it to the likes of Varane or Casemiro based on the time they've been in the game, what they've won.
Both of them lads have probably missed 15 games each, you know.
Yeah, but I suppose Luke Shaw is probably one of the ones that's there a while. You know, you're looking at somebody who's there quite a while, or Rashford. Now again, obviously Rashford, if you're looking at that, but there wasn't too many candidates, and I suppose he was doing all the whinging and giving out and kind of going and representing, if you want to call it that, if you want to use that word, for a lot of last season and at the weekend he was at it again. And I agree with Mark. He has been disappointed, but he was so good when he came in. Like he was beyond what I think anyone anticipated when he came into Man United. But at this level seems to have dropped quite a bit. And yeah, but there's no one there that stands out to me as that you could give it to that's there a while. It's supposed to.
He's about a 5 out of 10, Dan, since January. He's about a 5 out of 10. He's average. Every ball is tried as a Hollywood ball. Sometimes he plays passes and there's nobody there. You're like, what are you doing? Can you not see there's nobody there? Don't pass the ball when one of your players isn't there. And he gives out about everything. And look,
he waves his arms a lot. He's quite a petulant player.
Can I just throw a small bit of thing out there? I don't know whether or not you agree or whether or not you see any evidence, but I was thinking about Man United's midfield and the kind of, obviously, the opening couple of games they had there. But do you remember last season when Rashford was playing left, Weghorst played through the middle? Weghorst dropped back into midfield for an awful lot of the second half of the season when he was there. And I know he didn't get many goals, and there was a lot of slagging around him going there. But he was an extra body in the middle in midfield, and he was pressing from the front quite well. So I'm just wondering, is that something that Rashford's up top? He kind of stays there. He's not definitely. For me, doesn't look that happy. His body language, anyway, would show that he doesn't look that happy playing through the middle. Mark mentioned there last season from the left, he was unbelievable, one of the best players in the league. But I'm just wondering, is that part of the reason why you didn't? Because Howard made the point there around Mount. He had Eriksen, it was Eriksen, Casemiro, Fernandes for the majority of last season when Man United were doing well, and Mount you'd argue would have more energy than Eriksen. There should be more legs in the midfield than there was last year. So I don't know. Is it something got to do with that kind of the way they played?
Mount will be able to do that eventually. It's his second game, I suppose, in the real game. Rashford, you're actually spot on about that. And I don't know if you lads watched the overlap with Gary Neville, and Rashford was one of the guests, and he asked Rashford, "Do you like playing up front?" And he said, "No, because my back is to the goal, and I'm not good at turning with the ball, and I'd sooner be out on the left." Where I can score or I can set it up. I'm not really good up front, and he looks like he's not good as well, So it's he should be on the left at all times, but there's nobody else to go up front, so he has to go there,
Yeah. You look at say Sancho and Garnacho and them lads. Even some of the chances you got in the opening 2 games from the left. Garnacho had a couple of chances in both games, and he just looks like if that was a real finisher like Rashford from the left, he would have stuck one of them away,
I think he made worried down because and United fans now believe the messages given out here, but look, say it as you see it. We don't look fit.
Casemiro looks like he's carrying weight. He didn't come back. 100%. There was a few photos doing around there.
We actually don't look fit. We were on the
Howard,
70,
can you send them on, please?
Games.
Top on or top off?
The 70th, 75th minute of both games, we looked puffed out. We looked like Antonio from West Ham looks after 5 minutes. Everyone was blown, and we had a good pre-season. He's saying, like, we didn't play well because I watched the games, but the fitness is sharp, everything is done. I don't know. Look, I'm going to trust the manager. I'm going to say that he knows stuff that I don't know, and that he knows more about football than I ever know, it's fair to say that. But a lot of things that he's saying, I just can't see. Yeah,
it's just I just think it's a bit from an outsider looking in. United's squad on paper just doesn't look that strong. And like, being a realist, I don't think Garnacho is going to be okay. Maybe in a few years he's going to be, but you have Garnacho start now, obviously, because Rashford is up front. But then you have your man Pellistri coming on. I don't think he's not ready for the Premier League for another few years. You have Mount. You have the three lads in midfield, and then the down level to McTominay is huge. I don't think that the players are there. Like, I don't think he has, first of all, the depth. You're saying about getting Amrabat in. I don't even think he's a plan A or plan B. I think he's just to bring in some depth there. Like, I don't even know if he probably could start alongside Casemiro and some of the games, but I just don't think United. There's a possible chance that Ten Hag's season last season, he actually was overperforming. I think potentially you had Rashford was playing out of his skin. I don't know if Rashford can hit them levels again this season. I think he can, but he's gone through form seasons before where he's been unreal when he first came into the United team. Then he went off the boil. Remember, people were like, "What's gone on to him?" He's just complete. And then he's come back leaps and bounds last year. Now, is he going to kick on? Maybe if he goes out to the left, he will. But I don't know. I think there's a good few questions over the United team. I think there's still a few signings away. Now, this Højlund could be the savior to come in, but I just don't see it. I just don't see that happening. But anyway, I could be wrong. But
is there a question mark just over the maybe a small bit of stubbornness from him? So, like, obviously, it's been well documented around the away from home against the top clubs and away from home that there's that kind of thing. Like, is there an argument for? And I know it goes against what he's trying to do, but going away from home in one of the big games, playing McTominay, because that's who you have at the moment, alongside Casemiro, and kind of doing what Man United teams had done under Mourinho. They gone away to City, they gone away to big teams, and kind of played a small bit more, I suppose, hitting on the counter and got a result. And I know that's not, but is there a small bit of stubbornness maybe there? Like, he's not obviously getting the results away from home against the big clubs. It has to be a small bit more sticking someone else in alongside. Like McTominay, I know, he is limited to what he can do, but he does give his all. I know he's limited, but he when he plays United, he does give his all. He might be up to the level, but I'm just throwing out there. I don't know what you think of that.
Like, I'd give my all if I played for United as well, but I'm not good enough. I don't expect to start, Like, McTominay is a 3-4 out of 10 at his best. So if we've any aspirations about winning, and listen, I like him. I actually like him. I heard him talking loads of times. He seems like a really good guy, and I wanted nothing more than for it to work for him, In terms of playing different and stubborn, yeah, he is very stubborn. I would have no problem going to play Man City and parking the bus for 90 minutes and trying to get a draw. No problem whatsoever. And we did get a draw. That's a point that we haven't got in a while. So I take it. Because there's a big gap in difference. Like, people start to lose, Arsenal, for example, like, they were incredible last year. Oh, they fell off. Nonsense. City are just the best team. They've been the best team in Europe for the last 3 years, and they've only won it once. The best team in Europe doesn't always win the Champions League because anything can happen. But the best team in the league wins the league. City won, I think it's 5 out of the last 6. So they're the best team by a mile. There's nobody even close. And then Arsenal are the best of the rest last season. And you have to hope and see, can you catch Arsenal? Because the only way you catch City is if everything goes tits up. Pep leaves, something goes wrong, and they're getting a lot of injuries as well.
We are. So, and Dan will say as well that there's 115 reasons why things might go shit up. So we will see what happens with that one. All right. On to our next segment. So the Fanatic 4 game week 3 predictions. Last week we gave our predictions. Kieran did as well. And not one of us picked one right. Lads, up your game. Okay. So next weekend, Everton versus Wolves. Dan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, probably the worst two sides possibly in the league at the moment and what we've seen. So I've gone for 1-1 because I don't think Wolves will play as badly as they did against Brighton, and I'd imagine that Everton, but I've just gone for a draw. I can't pick who's going to win that, so I've gone for 1-1.
Okay, so actually today as well, Everton are looking at Shea Adams from Southampton. Could be an interesting one. They need firepower from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I've seen as well, like they're willing to sell Damari Gray to the Circus as well. So I mean, I don't know. Everton are an odd one at the moment. Howard, Everton and Wolves.
I have Wolves winning that 1-0. I just think. I just think they were harshly done. I know it was a 4-1 in the Brighton game, but they actually had a lot of chances. Wolves just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Same thing as in the United game. So they're actually, that start 11, man, Lamina, midfield, they're actually decent enough team. I just think they've on paper they're better than Everton. I think if they can get their shooting boots on, they might get a win over Everton. So I've 1-0 Wolves.
All right, cheers, Mark. Everton Wolves.
I went for Everton to win 3-1. So Everton are going to be back at home, and all fans are going to be behind them. They've lost the first two games, and I think that they're going to score. I think they'll score 3 goals. They'll play really, really well. I also think Wolves will play well, and I think they'll have a fleet of chances, and they might get one. Like they should have beaten us. They were much better than us, and the chances against Brighton. You're actually right. They were hammered against Brighton, it looks like. But I've seen that game. That's not true. They played really well. They just can't score a goal. So I think they might get one, and Everton get 3. It'll be 3-1.
And as well as that, just about Everton, I suppose Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's a full-time patient that plays football from time to time.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, you feel sorry for him. Because, I mean, there is a very good player there, but Jesus Christ, his injury record is ridiculous. All right, so Brighton versus West Ham. Dan?
3-1 Brighton.
3-1 to Brighton. Their run will continue. Howard, Brighton and West Ham?
I have 2-1 Brighton. I just think that's I think Brighton are looking good these days.
They're looking excellent, yeah. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, snap 2-1 Brighton. Same.
2-1. There is a Mr. Ronan Fagan who will not be too happy with that, man.
He'll probably predict that himself, though, he's being honest.
Yeah, that's true. He sent a message to our WhatsApp group at the weekend. I can't even remember it, but it made so little sense. He didn't want West Ham to score until like the 90th minute. He wanted it to be 0-0. I can understand it from a fan's point of view. Kind of at Chelsea, I get it. You just want to keep things tight and maybe nick one at the end. But I mean, you gotta love him for it.
He had some illegal bets on, did he? Himself, Lucas Paqueta's family.
Oh,
now.
Paqueta,
he's waiting for that 90-minute goal or something.
He'll be on at some stage. You'll have to ask him about that. Okay, Burnley versus Villa. Dan?
I've gone for 2-1 Villa.
2-1 Villa. Okay. Howard?
I've 1-0 Villa. Look good, actually, Villa, this at the weekend. Look very good.
At the weekend, they looked excellent.
We would look good against Everton at the moment.
Fair point. Mark, what did you think, Burnley and Villa?
I went for Desmond, 2-2.
Very good, 2-2. I like that. It's actually the first draw we've had predicted, so you never know. Okay, now the big game of the weekend is obviously Newcastle versus Liverpool. Dan, interested in what you think about this one?
I've gone for a sheepish 2-1 Liverpool.
Sheepish 2-1 winning. Wow. And away win to Liverpool. That'd be an interesting one.
We went away there last year and won. I know Pope got
okay.
sent off. Pope got sent off. And not many teams went to Newcastle and won last year. But
absolutely,
I think we can go there and win. But like, it's a sheepish one. If we went out with Newcastle spanked us, I wouldn't be surprised either, because they're especially at home. They're a very tough side to beat. But yeah, I think we have the firepower to cause them problems, as did they. So it could be a mad scoreline. Could be like 4-3.
Could be a 4-3, a memorable 4-3 as well. Stan Collymore, Faustino Asprilla. What a game. Do you remember them?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable games, both of them. All right, Howard, Newcastle, Liverpool.
I have 2-0 Newcastle, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck you, Howard.
Liverpool.
Fuck you.
I just think St. James's Park, Newcastle, they'll have a point to prove after their game last weekend against City. I just think they're just, if they can get into their groove in St. James's Park, Newcastle, you can't stop them. You can't stop them. And Liverpool, without a recognised six in there, McAllister, what is he going to be gone potentially?
They're appealing though, aren't they?
They are.
Appeal,
well,
But your point is kind of correct though, because it's the midfield is the trouble. Like you look at Joe Linton went off injured, you'd want him to be out because he's a big player for them in the middle. When you look at their midfield versus our midfield, theirs is very much more as the workings of a midfield more than us at the moment.
Yeah.
But we've a Japanese destroyer to come in. Don't forget.
Endo.
He'll be Endo. And Mark, finally, your take on Newcastle and Liverpool.
So I went with Dan 2-1, but I went 2-1 to Newcastle.
Oh, really? Okay.
I agree that Newcastle are hard beat at home. They've lost a game against City. They can't really be losing against City and Liverpool. I think they'll be up for it. The crowd will be up for it. And although I think Liverpool will be okay this season, they'll play well. They might even win something. They're a little bit hit and miss at the moment. And I couldn't predict who the starting 11 will be, even for Liverpool. And that's the first time that's happened in about 7 years.
Fair point. All right, Dan, we'll move on to fantasy football for the podcast. We have 42 teams taking part, which is brilliant, and thank you all for taking part. Dan, do you want to give us an update on how the weekend went?
42 players in the league. I think the leader is Connor Jordan before the Arsenal game tonight. I think he actually joined us. I think he might join us after week 1.
Connor Jordan, yeah.
Connor Jordan, and his team name is Beanbags. Is his team name?
Well, he's a Man United fan. He's not the nicest lad in the world.
Well, he is leading, and as for fantasy football, an awful lot of people would have been disappointed at Haaland blanking. A lot of people would have had him as his captain.
Okay.
And looking towards the weekend, I think Chelsea, Brentford, and Man City would be players to have in your side coming up. I think Chelsea are playing Luton. Brentford, I know, have 2 home games coming up. And Man City have a nice run. So you have a nice run of games now as well, I think.
Yeah, we have Sheffield United at the weekend. You were saying recently as well, actually, we do have a nice run of games.
As did Chelsea as well.
Yeah, I mean, they are games like throughout September that you would expect City to be winning. And then we have Arsenal on the 8th of October, which would be it could be a cracking game. Is there any kind of who's bottom? Actually, where are you in the league?
I had a good week there. I think I can't remember now, 5th or 6th or something. But I can see at the end of your week you have green or red arrows. Green arrows is what you're looking for. It means you're on the up.
Yeah.
What about Howard? Where's he?
I'm red arrows, numerous red arrows out of that last week. Fuck's sake! I was silly. I put a Nunez in at the very beginning, but Nunez is. I thought look, I'll leave him for Bournemouth just in case he starts for Bournemouth in the Bournemouth game. But no, he's gone now. And I got Ake in. Fuck's sake, I got Ake in, and then he just doesn't play. What's going on, Dick?
What happened to you, man? You used to know your stuff. Now you've gone to the dog.
Okay, play the start of the first game and then just gone. I thought he'd be starting ahead of Kanje, but obviously not.
There was a few that left. I seen a few teams. There was remember Hurt Locker FC from last week? He still hasn't put Haaland in yet. He's a brave man. He's
holding out over him, but it's obviously working for him.
Yeah. And there was one other team. I think Owen Carberry. He used his free hit, which basically means he can change your team for 1 week for free. And
would that be considered early? No, doing it after.
It would be. Yeah, it would be, I guess. But he had, I think, if I'm right, he definitely had Mitoma. I think he might have had Wisa. I think he basically had about 32 points on his bench.
Okay.
When you're talking about fantasy football, and if you look at it, lads, when you're checking your score on Dex League, right? This is for everyone listening as well. Look at the person who finished just ahead this week, and you'll see that he fucking treble captained Aurier for Nottingham Forest.
No way.
They do that by accident. Yeah, they were talking about it on Sky this morning.
Jesus Christ.
That he was lucky, you know.
What, he got 2 assists, was it?
2 assists, yeah. 2 excellent assists. I don't think he scored.
He didn't score. No, 2 assists. Yeah, he 2 crosses for 2 headers. Yeah.
Are you doing the fantasy football, Mark?
I think I'm in 13th.
You're in, yeah.
Okay,
you're 10th, Mark. You're
today.
Okay. What do you call it, Dan? Where are the husband and wife?
Yeah, they were actually, funny enough. I did message them as well, and yeah, they won't have any Man United players in their team. They told me so. They're staunch Liverpool. There'll be no Man United players there, so they were licking their lips after the first 2 weeks. But
Okay.
I think they dropped down because a lot of people see Haaland as captain. So, and then I didn't. I'd Salah, but he missed a penalty, so you get like -2 for that, and then he was my captain, so it's -4. So he only ended up with 10 points, and the fact that he's definitely going to be off fucking penalties. So I think I don't think
Fair
he'd be
enough.
penalty taker. I don't think he'd be penalty taker going forward. I don't know. Yeah, he's been dodged enough on them.
Very good. Cheers for that, Dan. So, with just a final thing on the show, guys, we have Monksland last man standing. So, just got an update from them today. So, there were 193 players going into round 2. There were 17 eliminated over the weekend. 8 people have Arsenal tonight. 50% went with Liverpool over the weekend. So, they would have been shitting themselves after the first few minutes, but it came good in the end. Some people they picked Wolves and they picked Fulham. Fulham, I get, they were playing Brentford, like that could have been a 1-0, but like they picked Wolves as well, and then some people picked Newcastle to beat City at the Etihad. I don't know, you'd wonder. It's an odd decision, but
well, there's probably though, if you think about it, City played in the cup during the week.
Fair
They
point.
had a couple of injuries, so it's not without the rounds that they could have went to City and maybe beaten, especially early in the season. As for Wolves, like as well, like they did now, could have beaten United by a couple of goals easy. They were very impressive. I know what they're saying. I know what they're saying. The first couple of weeks you want to be near to go, but the solid ones, I get a bit of fun out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. And a few lost out on Chelsea as well, actually. Just on that, Arsenal versus apologies, it's after going out in my head. Crystal Palace and Arsenal tonight, Howard. What do you think?
I'm hopeful, but I don't know. I'm looking at the team there. Gabriel's not starting again. I don't know what's going on there. So it's a weird one. I'm worried that he might be off to the circus potentially. Who knows? But he's been one of our best centre backs last season. So I don't get it. It's kind of worrying, to be honest. But let's see. Partey, no, not injured. He's on the bench. Partey playing right back again. So he'll be inverting. Don't really fancy that either. He's gonna get the legs run off him out in the wing. So I don't know. It's funny. I don't know what I think. Arteta's basically he's missing. Zinchenko's not back yet, so he wants to play this back three, obviously with Tomiyasu, Saliba, and Ben White, and have Partey then kind of coming in. But look, we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
What do you call it? Yeah, Palace is always a banana skin.
Yeah, it's the problem with Palace is if it was on at 3 o'clock on Saturday, it would be grand. Looking 8 o'clock on Monday night, all the fans would be up for it. It's a pain in the ass, yeah.
Let's be rocking. Hodge will be the first one there rocking as well.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we will leave it there. Listen, thank you very much for all of your input this week. Really appreciate it. And again, if you'd like to contact the podcast, you can do so, footballfanaticpodcast@gmail.com. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. The subscribe button is below the screen, and we are on Instagram at Football Fanatic Podcast. Gents, thank you very much. I hope you have a great week ahead, okay? And we'll talk to you all next week.
All the best.
All right, cheers, Deck.